Let me go straight across to Vishnu Prakash, former spokesperson, MEA, former ambassador, Skan Tayal, also former ambassador. Appreciate both of you joining us on the show. Vishnu Prakash ji, how do you see the fact that the Prime Minister has told the Russian President that this is not an era of war? Is that enough of a signal to suggest that India strongly disapproves of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, or are we still maintaining a delicate balancing act given our special relationship with Moscow?
Rajdeep, good evening.
Good evening.
Those who wanted to listen or chose not to listen will not listen.
Mm-hmm.
India has not been neutral, period. What India has done is to speak in India's language. I will elaborate. Now, the significant thing, as you have mentioned and Geeta was mentioning, is that Prime Minister very clearly said that this was not the era of war, and Putin was receptive. That's a big difference. For the simple reason that unlike the West, India did not go in for a shrill denunciation, did not issue threats, did not use reprimand, did not use sanctions. West has only one prescription for every element: sanctions, a reprimand. Now that gets the tails up. Have ever sanctions been effective? India from day one has been saying sovereignty should be respected, territorial integrity should be respected, get back to the negotiating table and solve this problem. Now, there is no other solution. But just because we refuse to take dictation and because we do not speak the language that the West wants us to speak, they say that it's neutrality. Now, there is a very big difference, but it is the way we put across things. And today, Prime Minister made it very clear that in the past also he has been speaking to President Putin about bringing about peace, about respecting territorial integrity, and so on. So it is about time that the Western world understands that there is another way of doing things. There need not be just one way. I do not believe that they will listen to that, because they have their own way of doing things. But we are today in a position to stand up to our national interests, look people in the eye and say that, well, this is how we will conduct business. Rajdeep.
You know, Mr. Tayal, you agree with that? That have we been able to emphasize our neutrality in this conflict? Or do you believe that at the end of the day, with the Russians, their self-interest, their perception of national interest will lie in continuing with this war in Ukraine, despite the recent reverses? Really no sign that Putin is willing to back off.
On India's stand, I agree completely with Ambassador Vishnu Prakash that India's stance has been very principled. It has not been shrill to condemn Russia. But you look at the vote in Security Council, we did not vote against Russia, but in our explanation of vote, we stood by the principle of sovereignty, territorial integrity, UN Charter, and universal rules. But the second part of your question is that unfortunately in the West, there are no strong voices of moderation. Prime Minister, in his remarks, which were open to the media, said that today we will get an opportunity to talk about how can we progress on the path of peace. And President Putin said that Ukraine is not coming to negotiate, they want to win the war. And who is advising Ukraine? America and the West are prodding Ukraine not to go for negotiations.
No, but it's a war. Mr. Tayal, just to stop you there, but the war is started by the Russians. I mean, let's be very clear. It's Russia's aggression on Ukraine. I mean, we can question Western double standards when it comes to aggression on sovereign nations, but in this instance, Russia has committed the act of aggression. So, should India have come out even more strongly against Mr. Putin, or you believe because of our interests, economic interests, in promoting a stronger relationship with Moscow, we can't go beyond a certain line?
I believe that India's strong condemnation of Russia on this aggression would not have made any difference to Russia, because the whole world, so many countries have been saying so many things about Russia, but it would have spoiled a relationship between India and Russia built over decades, to which Prime Minister also referred. So we have to stand by principles of international law, sovereignty, etc. But India also has to look after its own national interest. I believe that our entire policy towards Ukraine conflict has been very well crafted, safeguarding the principles, standing by the principles of international law, sovereignty, etc., and also trying to find a way out. What is the way out? Way out is only diplomacy and dialogue. That is what Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Jaishankar are emphasizing. So the parties, the antagonists have to talk. If they don't talk, then countries like India, which are friendly towards both sides, should try to bridge the gap. But unfortunately, in the Western side, I think we are missing a sane voice like of Angela Merkel, who was a strong voice and who understood the security concerns of Russia also.
So can I just bring in Vishnu Prakash there on that? Do you believe that India has an influence at all in reaching out to both sides? Is that possible at all?
I don't know whether we have an influence or we do not have an influence. These decisions will be taken by Russia and not Ukraine but Washington. The fight is not between Russia and Ukraine. The fight is between Washington and Moscow. So that decisions they will be taking. But point really, Rajdeep, is that does shrillness or loud denunciation deliver? Just strong language deliver? If strong language were to deliver, then North Korea would have been the world's leader. Point is that if you can put across a viewpoint in a way that the other person does not feel offended, why not? Now,
no, but what is the principle? Ambassador Prakash, let me press you. What principle have we held on to by saying this is not an era of war, but at the same time refusing to condemn what most of the world believes is outright aggression by the Russians?
Rajdeep, when we say, what we have to understand is that you do not have to be abusive. When you say that territorial integrity should be respected, what does it mean? There are two ways of telling a person. You tell a person that you are bad or tell a person that you can improve. Now, you can say that, well, you did not tell a person that you are bad, but you did say you can improve. So who will a person listen to? You outrightly denounce a person or you give him an opportunity to improve. I agree with you that Russia started the conflict. I also agree with you that that cannot be condoned. It's also a fact that Russia hitherto was not open to a negotiated settlement. So when Putin says that the ball is in the Ukrainian court, that is neither here nor there. But all that one is saying is that India has been unfairly criticized for being neutral. No, India was not neutral. India was independent and India was principled, and we said what we said in our own way. And I think that is the right thing, and that is something that we will continue to do.
That's an interesting way to put it, that we've not been neutral, but we've been independent. We've been principled, you believe, without being shrill. Hopefully, some of those messages that went out to Vladimir Putin from Prime Minister Modi, that this is not an era of war, will resonate in Moscow. I appreciate Vishnu Prakash and Mr. Tiyal for joining me here on the News Today tonight.